Are you interested in tactics that feature a back five? On today's show, we're going to talk about the permutations of different kind of back five systems. My name is Daljit. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel where I do content on the game Football Manager. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you'll also see me streaming on Daljit's Moments. Wednesdays, that's the day I do bring your tactics. It's a chance for you to share your tactic with me, and well, we'll give it a go with Marseille, who are changing tactics every single day. So it's kind of fun seeing how they react to different kinds of tactical systems. You're not doing too badly. Third on the table. Today I'm going to craft a back five system, and I'm going to show you how I use team instructions and play instructions to make the tactic do what I want it to do. I'm also going to share with you permutations of the back five, like different ways of setting it up. And of course, along the way, we're going to visit team instructions and play instructions and try and understand how to choose the right kind of players for that. Ultimately, I'm hoping that all this is enough information for you to go and make your own systems. I'm going to advise you to go to skin colors, and for the league that you're in, I want you to go and adjust the threshold for your skin colors. Now, I'm playing at the top tier of football. So for me, the excellent attribute threshold is actually 15, because that is the attribute threshold that is you'll find top players having those kind of attributes, at least 15 and higher. The good attribute threshold should be 13 instead of 12. 12 is generally average. 13 is a good attribute threshold for any of the key attributes in the game. The average attribute threshold should be 11. This will put that player in a so-so position for those attributes. Anything higher would be good, anything lower would be definitely a no-go. So once you've done that, reload your skin, and you should be able to go to any one of your players and you should see a view like this. It makes it a lot easier when you want to try and determine whether a player should be playing in your system or not. There are several back five systems. You can play a flat back five like this, where these outer players are actually fullbacks, or they can be positioned high up the pitch as wingbacks. The most important position in this tactic is actually the central defender's position, because whenever the opposition play a long ball out from the back, he's usually going to be the player that has to react first. So anticipation, concentration, and jumping reach are very important. This area also gets marauded by systems that play a 4-2-3-1, where there's an AMC in this area. So one of these roles has to be able to cover that area. Back five systems are naturally defensive. The challenge is actually moving the ball through the transitions. When the ball gets into the midfield area, you really want the wing backs to be positioned high up the pitch so that you have more passing options. Then you also need somebody in the central midfield tier supporting the two strikers, either from wider positions or through the middle. This is an important consideration for all back five systems. How do you actually support the central area of the pitch through the midfield transition? Those two wing backs on the outer sides of the tactic, these guys are going to be the only ones who give you width. And sometimes on quicker transitions where the ball is worked from the back to the front really quickly, you want the strikers to be able to go to wider positions, hold up the ball for players to come through the middle to support play. So these are the basic things that we have to worry about for any of our tactics. How do we move the ball from defense to midfield, from midfield to attack? Who does what? And how do we get width in our tactics? Time to understand our team. Having a good view can help. This is our Cagliari side, and I have technical attributes here, mental attributes here, and physical attributes over here. It's clear from this view, I've got a choice of two defenders who can play in the center. We've got Carboni and Sebastian. Both of them have got strong mentals. The standout, of course, is Carboni. He's got good decision making. He's got better jumping reach, and his heading is also better. So if I were to play him smack in the center, he could break up a lot of play that comes our way. Now we need to determine what kind of midfielders we have. So the Kevin Strootman is not bad. He's on loan here. He's pretty solid. He's got some strength in the air. His mentals are pretty solid. And then we've got Nahita Nandes. He's a walking red card. Okay. Then we've got Alberto Grazzi. He's not as... His concentration is 12. He's not perfect. His work rate is pretty solid, so we can expect him to bust the gut. Acceleration is 12. Jumping reach is 11. Okay, he's all right. I mean, worst comes to worst, we'll go with Kevin Strootman and Nahita Nandes and probably Alberto Grazzi. So we've got our three in midfield. Now it's time for us to determine what kind of attacking options. I'm looking at central midfielders and wingers in particular. I'm looking for players with flair. These are the guys who are going to unlock defenders. We've got fullbacks, we've got João Pedro. This guy is not too bad. He's got very good mentals, solid mentals. First touch is pretty good, balance, finishing, crossing. He can cross the ball. He gets into the box. He's got the ability to score goals from wider positions, and he has some flair. He can unlock defenses. So this guy is not too bad. His passing is pretty good. So he can play as a wider player or he can play through the center, which is interesting. In attack, we probably have João Pedro, who can attack the central areas or the wider areas of the pitch. Then we've got Keita Balde, who also can play as an inside forward. The challenge, of course, is who's going to be the striker of this team. Before we go any further, let's talk about a few of the common back five shapes. Ignore the team instructions for now. Let's talk about roles and duties and the overall shape. When you're setting it up like this, generally, it's a defensive system. You're depending on quick counter attacks. Teams are going to attack you. If you're hoping that this can go camping and generate loads of possession, you're going to be disappointed because by the time you get into the opposition half, they've already got a lot of their players sitting back and defending. So you will need really good players to carry the ball into the final third because you don't have an AMC. You're going to hit a lot of teams on the counter. Very good against the 4-2-3-1. Even against the gegenpressing 4-3-3, you could have loads of results where you probably will deny them easy goal scoring chances and you're depending on breakaways to score goals. Then we have something a bit more orthodox. 5 at the back. You probably will have 2 players supporting the wingbacks as they go attacking, which is the reason why I probably prefer Mazzalas, Carrillo's box-to-box players that shuttle between the two halves of the pitch. In such a setup, you're also looking at wingbacks providing you with your width because those are the only players that will be doing that, bombing up and down the pitch. Once again, in this setup, because you don't have anybody carrying the ball from your defense up top, you probably will need central midfielders who either drop deep to get the ball or even a Libero that pushes up, acting like a DM, looking to spray passes to the wingbacks who are further up the pitch. This is not a bad system. However, it can struggle against the 4-3-3 DM. Whenever I use back 5 systems, I'm always using opposition instructions. This is a very good system against the 4-3-3 DM. The 2 AMCs are going to keep the DM occupied. So he's removed as an easy passing option for any team that wants to play out from the back. This forces them to use the wing backs. Because you're playing narrow, they come down the flanks. If you show them the flanks, meaning you show the right fullback to his right foot, he is going to be encouraged to bring the ball down the flanks. You're going narrow, those are the only passing options. Furthermore, the 2 guys in the middle, they're going to be marked out of the game as well because you've got 2 aggressive roles in the center. Now, when this happens, they might end up having to hoof the ball. You've got 3 at the back to handle their 3. So if your defenders have got good anticipation as well as positioning, they can win the second ball, allowing you to set off for a quick counter, which is one of the reasons why I prefer the Libero in this setup. The Libero can play quick counter attacking balls from the back. There are many back 5 systems. Some of them give you loads of options like this one. This has so many permutations, I can't possibly cover them all. You can set these 2 players up as roundouters and poachers, and you can just sit back and hold balls behind defensive lines. You can move these 2 players up top. You've got yourself a 5-2-3. You can play these guys as advanced forward, and this player can be a DLF on support and F9, a trequartista. The options are endless. It all depends on what you want to do. I mean, whenever you create these kind of systems, the key in your options lies actually here. If you have 2 very solid central midfielders, then you can afford to be experimental. You always need a very strong central midfielder who can win the ball. My recommendation is to also find one who has got jumping reach and who's big, like a big player. A player that can win the ball, can win headers and win the second ball. This gives you more latitude in central midfield. Then you can also start with combinations. There's one attacking duty here or a Mazzala on attack, which can create overloads on one side of the pitch. With Cagliari, I decided to use this permutation. It's very simple. We're going to go balance. I'm playing narrow. I don't have any other team instructions. I don't want to overcomplicate the game. And I decided to do something that you can do with back 5 systems, which is to hurl the ball over the top. So I'm deciding to kick the ball long towards this position here because I've got a player who's got very good jumping reach, and I can play him as like a quasi-target man in this position. We aren't a very, very top team, so I'm going to be hoping for these long balls from the back to be won by this player, and we can quickly go on to score goals. In this kind of a situation, I'll probably go hit early cross shoot on side, so I don't want to waste any time. I don't need nice, pretty build-ups. I just need goals. Then we're going to have a standard defensive line. There's going to be a big gap in the center here that I have to be wary of. This player needs a lot of good physical attributes to cover this ground. And our next game is actually going to be against Inter Milan. So we're setting our tactic up. We got move into channels to the striker, stay wider for the two AMCs. We're going to add Mark Taiter to our wing back. Mark Taiter on our wing back as well. I'm also going to tell him to close down more. Right, so he is a bit more aggressive in the press. Okay, now at the back, we're going to use a Libero. Yes, we are being bold and beautiful here because the Libero and a DLP actually do work quite well together. These two guys have been told to stay wider. Now, I am playing that team called Inter Milan. So what we're going to do is we're going to regroup. We're also going to be playing unbalanced, but we are going to be playing pretty aggressively against them. We have a player here in the form of Pereiro. Pereiro is a jumping reach, right? Now, what I'm going to tell the goalkeeper to do is I'm going to tell the goalkeeper whenever he has the ball, I want him to kick it to him. So now we've got options to kick to that player. Now, Godin, the problem when I want to play very aggressively, Godin doesn't suit that style of play. So let's look at our defenders and see what options we have. I'm going to move this player here. I think I have Caceres. Okay, he's going to be playing here. Masopus is, we want aggression, so we're going to go with Nahita Nandes as a fullback instead of Masopus. Okay, so we've got our players here. Dalbert, if he gets injured, we have a problem because we don't have any more left backs. Yep, we don't have any more left backs. All right, so what we're going to, yes, we are going to be as aggressive as we can. High up the pitch, except we're playing on balanced mentality. So we're going to be playing all the way up the pitch, high defensive line. This is a very aggressive setup, except for my mentality. We've had a pretty solid game against Cagliari. We scored the opening goal from a throw-in. We've been defending quite well in this game, and we've been putting a lot of pressure on Inter Milan. In fact, for the better part of this game, we've had the better XG. And we've been creating, the goals have been outstanding, right? There haven't been great chances. We only have one very good chance inside the box. But throughout this match, we've been putting pressure down their flank. We've put our players into very good positions to score. And, well, if you look at the highlights, it's pretty simple. There was one small problem in this game. We kind of gave up a penalty inside the area. They managed to pull one back. At this point, the XG was 1.4 for Cagliari and 0.3 for Inter Milan. Now, here, this is the interesting thing. We were able to keep them back by playing a very aggressive brand of football. We had our wingbacks on attack, attacking their system, which also had relied on wingbacks. So we were continually forcing their wingbacks back into defensive positions. Towards the tail end of the match, with about 10 minutes left in the game, I decided to play for set pieces and just keep the general setup of the tactic the same. The only thing I added was play for set pieces. We didn't make any more substitution changes. The players play quite well. It's a very simple 5-2-2-1 that most teams can play with. And if you have the players for it, we were lucky because the AM has got jumping reach. And it gives us a chance to start counters really quickly. We used him up top. He doesn't have fantastic off the ball. If he had better off the ball, he'd be perfect as a target man in front. He's got jumping reach. He's got heading. He can win the second ball, especially against DMs who are short. XG was pretty solid. If you look at the XG prior to the penalty, this was where Inter Milan was, and this is where we were. We scored 2 goals without reply. They got 1 penalty, but after that, they still struggled to create goal-scoring chances, whereas we We could have done a lot better. Tactically, whenever I create any kind of these tactics, I'm looking at these positions, these statistics. Like key passes for important positions. We've got a wing back here who created 2 goal scoring chances. The right back did the same thing. And then the AMC also created 2 goal scoring chances. The box-to-box created 1, and the striker himself created 1. So there's a fair few players create. So basically, we had 2, 4, 6, 8 goal scoring chances. I was pretty happy with our performance. The tactic isn't that difficult to set up. I mean, most people should be able to create a 5-2-2-1. Here, I'm using a Libero because the reason why I'm using a Libero is I need a player here to help us circulate the ball. So I'm using a Libero. It's very gutsy to use a Libero. In fact, I probably enjoy using the Libero more in back 5 systems right now than I did in FM21. We've got ball playing defenders on either side of the Libero. Now, you can also use central defenders on defense. However, in this particular case, I didn't want to put all the pressure on the ball playing defender, which is the reason. You can also use central defenders. Why did I go for ball playing defenders either side of the Libero? In most setups, I'd advise you not to do that, but I went with it because my team isn't that good. I didn't want all the pressure to be on one player. If they pressed him, we'd be in trouble. At least with 3 players who can play the ball up from the back, it's pretty hard to identify the one threat that can split the defense with one pass. So I used 3 instead of 1, which is a bit extreme, but it can still work. Here, the wingbacks, typically, you can actually set them up as wingbacks on support. For good teams, I went with wingbacks on attack. Against another team that have very good wingbacks, the logic behind that was very simple. Keep their wingbacks pinned back, forcing them to defend for 90 minutes. If you play with wingbacks on support, then you're giving them the upper hand as well. You're allowing them to come attack you because these guys are going to be proactive when it comes to attacking runs. When you play wingbacks on attack, they're very proactive. They're going to be aggressive. And with 3 central defenders, why not take the risk? So we took the risk. And a 5-2-2-1 like this is actually a pretty good system for underdog sides, especially if you have a AM who's very good in the air. You can have a very fast transition from back to front. If the goalkeeper plays one out over the top to this player, he hits it down and you get a goal scoring opportunity. Now, in such a setup, I'll probably ask these guys to close down more and mark tighter. That way, you can actually get them to track back. The biggest failure for these systems is going to be your wingbacks. If your wingbacks are slow, anything less than 14, you're asking for trouble. So you want wingbacks who have at least 14 for acceleration. Because they're the primary source of crosses, they need to be able to cross the ball. They need some off the ball. A wingback like this is probably a good wingback. The issue with him is going to be his high aggression. Now, other than that, he's fantastic. Today in FM22, I'll even recommend that wingbacks have jumping reach because if a ball is flinged to the far post, he's going to be the one that gets there first before the defender sometimes. So if he's got good jumping reach, you can even defend against the early cross that might be directed to the far post, which the wingback has to defend against. If he's got good jumping reach and anticipation, he'll get there ahead of the ball playing defender sometimes, and he'll win that for you. Now, the Libero, this is a role that is very, very fun to play with. You just have to make sure that you find somebody who's better than mine. I would recommend somebody who's got first touch, dribbling, passing, vision, and decisions. You want somebody in this position who can bring the ball forward and has some composure. Agility and balance are also going to be helpful because roles like this need those kind of attributes. The DLP and the box-to-box should share similar mental attributes. Anticipation, concentration, positioning, and off the ball. They should be around the same, between 12 to 14 for both of them. If you get 14 for a player with good off the ball, chances are he's going to be a box-to-box player. Then, if both these players have decent flair, you scored a phenomenal pair. Would I play a Mazzala in this position? Never in 1,000 years. Because if I play a Mazzala here, he tends to go into the half space. It puts a bigger burden on this player. Unless you have N'Golo Kanté in your team, you don't play that. You don't play a Mazzala because you don't want this guy opening up. If you lose the ball over here, then you open yourself up to a transitional situation where the AI is able to drive it to center, prematurely pulling your central defender out of position. Now, what about these 3 positions? These 3 positions are your goal scorers. All 3 of them better have off the ball. If one of them has got jumping reach, you scored yourself a phenomenal play as well. This is the Milinkovic-Savic position. You want somebody here who's got great jumping reach off the ball, passing vision decisions. What we got as well was a player who gets into opposition area, which is fantastic for these kind of triple combinations. When you have this kind of setup, you want players who gets into opposition area, loves to break the offside trap. These are fantastic traits for these two positions. And here we got João Pedro. João Pedro is also another one that gets forward whenever possible, tries scalar balls, places shots, plays 1-2s. Plays 1-2s in this setup is sweet. And then finally, we got a Poacher. Now, the Poacher is going to be a very simple role. Ideally, you want somebody who has some strength. Now, if you have a player with some strength, he tends to keep the ball pretty well, has good off the ball. He doesn't have to have a lot of acceleration, as you saw in our tactic, because if he doesn't have a lot of acceleration, what he ends up doing is kind of funny. He ends up dropping. He drops. And then he starts playing the simple passes to other players beside him, who just bring the ball forward for him. And you get a different dynamic inside that Poacher's position, which has quickly become one of my go-to roles in FM22. In almost all my tactics, I'm thinking of how I can use a Poacher, because Poachers have this incredible knack of getting others into play. From this base setup, you can probably create other setups as well. You can drop the DLP into the DM position. You can play with simple 2 up top. You can launch the wingbacks into more aggressive setups, but the principles are all going to be the same. I hope you enjoyed today's video on the permutations of a possible back 5 system. There are probably going to be a lot of back 5 systems out there. I don't profess them to be the best. The goal of today's show was to give you an idea of what you might try out in your tactic yourself. The target man, AMC, the ball from the back, the wingbacks launching early in a back 5 systems. These are pieces of advice I usually give other players when they're struggling with their back 5 systems. If you have any other questions, you guys know where to find me. Please stay safe. Take care of each other. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.